All right, so agency jurisdictions, what I mean by that is when you're developing, whether it be a subdivision or a commercial development, if it's somewhere that has a water body that you're discharging to or a lake, then the Army Corps of Engineers actually might be part of the permitting process that you have to deal with. So the Army Corps of Engineers are the ones that work with both your tidal waters and your fresh waters. So you may have to permit if you're discharging into a body of water that the Corps of Engineers regulates, then you'll have to permit with them, their agency also. But what I want to show you is if you go to Blackboard, or if you go online, you can see the down here at the bottom. I have listed South Florida Water Management District, St. John's Water Management District, and Southwest Florida Water Management District. They're design manuals. And I just want to show you what their design manuals, they tell you what you have to design to. Also, if you look in Blackboard, if you look at the project location, down here, I've also got the Muni Code. The Muni Code basically says, and if you click, the hyperlink should work. So I'm going to click on the Muni Code Stormwater Management. And the Muni Code here is for Orange County that I'm looking at, for Valencia. It tells you that there's pollution, recharge. So these are stormwater management requirements. It talks about the soil types, protecting the floodplain, runoff, development within a special hazard area, design requirements. It tells you, you have to have a drainage map that goes by this many contours. So we have to delineate our floodplain. We have to tell them what type of soils. And then it goes on to the stormwater calculations. So notice that your design storm is for retention and detention areas that basically are ponds. We have to have a known high water elevation. High water elevation will be basically what we might control the pond at. So if the ground is saturated, then maybe the water table is only maybe a foot below the ground. So that would be our high water table. Or if we're near a wetland, then the high water table actually might be inside, a foot above the actual ground. That means water comes up, stages, and then comes back down. But what I'm trying to draw your attention to here is they say that it's a 25-year frequency, 24-hour duration. So that's one design that you have to do. The second design you have to do, so that means you have to go to those maps and figure out how much precipitation falls based on those. And then you have the 100-year frequency with a 24-hour duration. So those two storms you have to design by for Orange County. Now, if you go back to our class in week 2, we've got here the South Florida Water Management District, and I posted the design manual on this, and it tells you for stormwater control design storms. In this one, we either discharge, and this is what I keep harping about, pre-post, whatever we sent off in whatever was coming off the basin before I developed it, before I put my Walmart, my Target out there, before I put my 100 house subdivision, that's pre-development. And then as soon as I put it on, it would be post. But in South Florida, they say they want a storm event of 3-day duration, 25-year frequency. So 3 days is basically 72 hours. So it used to be a 10-year 72-hour, but they've changed their designs. So if I go to, and each one of these tells you how you have to design. Now, the peak discharge calculations are going to be based on the SCS peak rate factor Ks. So I'm going to go over that in a little bit of what the SCS is, what it's actually talking about. So they're actually talking about the methodology that they're using to calculate discharge. So if I go to St. John's Water Management District, and they all have different styles, and they tell you what we want, how we want it done. So St. John's is and this might be a little bit older one, so it doesn't have the link of the part to it, but it tells you, okay, I've got qualities also, and it's also using I believe using the 25-year, 24 or 72-hour. And then you've got Southwest Florida Water Management District. And these are all available online. So when you start as an engineer or a designer, you need to look all of this up so you know what to design by, because you don't want to design by the wrong storm event and figure out the discharge rate that you picked and designed for your control structure doesn't work. And you've got discharge rates here. So what I'll probably have you do for a homework assignment, and I'll be posting it later this week, and for you all to look up, I'll specifically say what is St. John's or what is South Florida's, and you'll get familiar with the permitting agency, so you'll know a little bit about them, of what they're asking. I'll give you a little tip on how to find that too. Now, the other thing that I want to show you in the next part, and I haven't covered it yet, but I want to start telling you about what you're going to be seeing coming up, is stormwater quality. So if you have a parking lot and it was a gas station, how much of the runoff is going to be oil or even spilled gas? You don't want that into your storms and then out into your streams. So you have to provide some type of quality treatment. It's like having a stream on the backside of a golf course. We know that they fertilize that to make it nice and pretty, right? So we don't want all that fertilizer in our streams either. So we have to do some type of quality plan, a water quality plan for the runoff that's coming off of our site. Okay, I know that South Florida has and this has been a couple years ago, but they started requiring everybody to do nitrogen and phosphorus loading. So you have to do a quality prior to development and a load quantity, a nutrient load quantity post development, and you have to figure out how to reduce the load of phosphorus and nitrogen going to your streams, okay, or even to your ponds. So when we're talking about jurisdictions, we're not just talking about just designing something. We have to figure out what design storm event, what they're actually going to, they even tell us, some of the agencies even tell us they want their control structures to look like this for maintenance issues. They don't want this or that, and we'll get into, once we get into the hydraulics part of it, I'll go over the control structure and what the agencies require on that. Okay, so when we're talking about agencies, we're talking about county, city, we're talking about Army Corps of Engineers, and we're talking about the water management districts. Now, here's the thing. In Florida, it's water management districts. I used to work in Kentucky, and it was a MSD, a municipality that was running it. It wasn't exactly the county or the city, but it was a municipality that was running it. Okay? So you have to go to wherever you're working and figure out what the requirements are. You can't just learn one and go, oh, I'm done and I can work anywhere in the United States. It doesn't work that way. So, you know, what up in the north does isn't the same thing that we do down here in the south, okay, or the east or the west. All right, so the next thing that I want to cover is going to be the NRCS method and the TR55 program. Talked a little bit about the program already, but I want to go ahead and open up the TR55 manual, the Urban Drainage Small Watershed file. All right.